gosh, it's still going up. It's still going up. Hey, I'm clearly not Kelsey. And clearly I'm not alone here. I got Paul Denuzio as in not PLD and Dylan here with me tonight.
That's a heel move. That's a heel move, Alex. That's a heel move, Alex. I am PLD. You know that. Come on now.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not acknowledging that name. I'm just not.
I also not Kelsey. I do have to apologize. I know going late is kind of in our MO a little bit, but not this late. We did have some major problems. Kelsey had some major problems internet-wise, so we were trying to work and see if we can make it work. When it couldn't, Alex had to drag us old dogs out of retirement for the day anyway, out of the scrap heap.
But
we did. We got Dylan out of the scrap heap too. He hasn't done it in a while. We figured let's get him on board. How you doing today, Dylan?
I'm doing pretty good. Seeing the chats where some people were like, "Man, it's been a while since we've seen Dylan on." Yeah, it's true. I invaded an episode a little while ago, but it's been a minute since I've officially been a host on the thing for a second. So I'm glad to be back to be able to bring my opinions, thoughts, and definitely not be Schmoedown. Alex, speaking of, how you doing?
It's definitely not the Schmoedown. It's actually the Schmoebooty.
Schmoebooty. That's right.
Schmoebooty.
I still want to see that trending, guys. I still want to see that trending. That'd be great. So,
that would be the best thing ever. Can we make it happen? But guys, thank you so much for your patience. We really, really appreciate it. I know that we are starting way later than scheduled, but like I said, technical issues, a lot of things popped up unfortunately, so we're doing a little bit of troubleshooting as we go, so please be patient with us. We really appreciate it. But with that being said, we're just going to go ahead and dive right into it. So obviously this was the first week of the singles tournament, so no big deal, not that many matches.
And we're not tired at all. We're not burned out at all from watching all these matches and trying to react. Yeah, so we had the match debut of actually three qualifying matches to go into the actual tournament itself. So technically, I guess not. It is part of the tournament, but technically not. It's kind of a weird situation. And yes, Dean Morgan, I am in my living room. I'm not in my basement office area as some horrible stuff happened in my house. But so we're just going to real quickly grace through some of the matches of the week, but also we're going to dedicate some extra time to obviously the Schmoedown Throwdown that happened just the other day on Friday between Merle and Ethan, but also the team match between Shazam and Final Exam. But also one of our big topics today is definition of a heel. What is a heel? What defines a heel? What makes a good heel versus a great heel? And also the evolution of a face to a heel and vice versa. So that's a real big topic. I hope you stick around to hang with us and share your thoughts as well. Also want to let you guys know we have Streamlabs, everything ready to go. So if you have any comments, questions, let us know your opinions, whatever it may be. Let us know in a little Streamlabs or a super chat. We'd really appreciate it, and we'd love to, hang out with you guys. But yeah, so Brandon Buckingham, we are gonna actually try not to make this a 3-hour.
If we can help it, we won't.
we're gonna cut things down a little. We're gonna be a little more direct, a little more boom.
Yes. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump real quickly into the first match of the week. It was between Andres and Andres Gallegos versus Collins. Obviously Andres was the winner in this match, but still, a great match from between two rookies. Dylan, starting with you, what do you think of these match debuts for these two?
Yeah, it was interesting. It felt very much like a rookie debut for both of them, right? Andreas and Adam came in. Adam came in with a stronger round one overall, but it ended up being it stayed fairly tight, all things considered. With Collins definitely feeling like he had the upper hand for most of the match, but never really so far ahead that it was just going to be TKO territory. But first round jitters for all the performances, I would say this is a pretty solid opening for both of them. I mean, when you're considering that you're adjusting to Schmoedown in the 2020 verse that we are in now, and your first match is coming in as a play-in match. Yeah, I mean, they did as well as to be expected. I think Collins really showed some of the hype that I feel like of the two, he had the aura coming in of being the favorite on this one. I feel like I heard more buzz about Collins coming in on that, and
he had tape. He had tape
as well. Right,
so to speak.
Nothing against Gallegos at all on that one. I mean, it's just Collins had a little bit more heat coming in with that one, but Gallegos came up to play, man, and it definitely wasn't a knockout by any means. It was it felt closer than what the score probably reflects on that at 17-11. So I thought it was a fun opening match for the play-in starting the singles.
I gotta say, it's Andres Gallego. There's no actually S in there. It's only Ghost because his nickname is the Ghost.
Yeah, the Ghost.
Ghost. I've been there for a while too. And actually, I said Gallego at first. And Eric Rodriguez, Nerd Chronic, is a friend of Andres, and he actually, I was pushing him to me at one point, say we should look out for him. And he actually, I think he told me it was pronounced Gallego at one point. So I was totally off the charts and how to pronounce the guy's name. But you know what? I pronounce my name 3 different ways too. So I get that. I understand it. But I'll go on and say I like this match a lot too. I think Adam Collins definitely had a lot of heat to him. He definitely brought some from the fan leagues, and he did what he was supposed to do. Andres, I feel like he had a good debut, good solid debut. And he's got a lot to build from on that. I definitely want to see him more in the future. I love his personality. I think he's got a great personality, really set to deliver on some things. And he's had some great background. If Nerd Chronic says you're good, you got to be good because he sees everybody. He sees everybody. How many times? I mean, multiple times a day because he has to work on those promos. So I think he's something to definitely look forward to. And I know he's out for the season now, obviously, probably. But, man, the big part about this one is how corruption is just Shannon is handing Kaiser everything he can take. I feel so bad for Kaiser. Kaiser has nothing he can fight back with at this point. Shannon just keeps shitting on him and they can't do anything about it at this point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just the way that it was drafted, unfortunately. You can argue that Shannon was definitely much more of an efficient, and a much more of an efficient drafter, but that's a whole other conversation for a very, very different day, versus someone like Kaiser, who is very IG focused when he picked his competitors at the get-go at that draft. Moving on to our second match of the week, it was, another fan leaguer turned Schmoedown competitor, Mr. James White, up against Frank Moran, definitely a fan favorite that has been in Schmoedown, for several years now, for several seasons. However, he's not a super well-known competitor. He's not on all that much, but whenever he does come to play, he is so fantastic. And this match in particular, it was really great to see him. He was so solid. I was like, it was a very close match the entire time. It was one of my favorites for sure. What do you think, Paul?
Oh yeah, I like Frank had a great debut, or not debut, but he had a great showing in the free-for-all when he made his free-for-all debut. Was good, and then the tag team match. So we're kind of ready to see what he could do on his own. And then James White obviously had the hype from the being second-round pick in the draft. I mean, that's a pretty impressive. No pressure at all. But both of them had a good, solid match. I feel like both of them are still kind of finding their legs as far as how the matches go. I mean, you have the vets, like the high-level vets that have been there for a while. They kind of know more what they're doing. They're still kind of feeling it out a little bit, I felt. But James actually showed a lot of chutzpah there because he was going down by the end, and then he goes into round 3. I honestly at one point thought it was over. I honestly didn't think he had a shot. I really counted him out at the end, but he came through. Mm-hmm. Made that solid 5 pull at the Catherine O'Hara, and that was an impressive pull. And the way he did it, some people saying that was he pulling a Bateman, was he not? I don't know either way. I think he had it. I think he had it in the back of his head, but he was taking that time to confirm it. I think it was like that. But that was such a great pull that made for a great victory, gave him some possible momentum. So I was pretty excited to see what James did, and he definitely proved himself worthy of playing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not kidding. It was James has definitely had a lot of hype coming into it. Very similar. He has played pretty extensively in the fan leagues, and he's a really, really talented overall. It just goes to show just how important keeping that mentality, in your head at all times throughout the match, even when you're not doing so well. Obviously, in the first round, he got maybe, it's not even that bad of a score. He got maybe like a 4 or 5 or something. It's not a really great showing, especially nowadays. But I mean, it wasn't bad by any means. I mean, it was just like, okay. The guy clearly watches movies and he's okay. He's pretty good. But the thing is, but going into the second and third rounds, it really showed that you have to believe in yourself. You have to actively keep trying the entire time, because at any given point, he could have been like, well, guess it just didn't work out. What are you going to do? That could have happened. But it didn't. He definitely, he kept focused and he pulled out those points by the end. And that, to me, that 5-pounder is that's a pretty hard 5-pointer for sure. Dylan, final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think that this match overall showed a little bit more vigor as far as the playing matches for especially for James White on this one. Round 1, rough start, and on your first match coming in, you don't want to have like 4 or 5 points on that one. You probably set a bar a little bit higher for yourself. Round 2, they were just fighting in the mud. It went back and back, but James really showing in that third round, just cleaning the plate, getting the 2-3, and especially the 5 all the way to the last second. Whew, man, that's a high-level player psyche right there. That's what I came away from it, right, is to be able to have that mindset to make it through all 3, not defeat yourself, and to be able to bring it back on that last second. That win was a hard-earned win. And I respect that, man, because, going in, it looked like he was about to be falling out, but then he just clutches it out. So James White, man, put him on that radar. Maybe he's worth that round 2 pick.
Mm-hmm. It was a super duper huge risk for him to be drafted in the second round by the former Droogs manager, obviously, and him being switched over to the Den. What a huge steal, especially when some kind of like rando weird guy like what's his face. So we're gonna be moving on to our next match. Marisol McKee, another fan leaguer. It's been like the week of the fan leaguers, which I'm so excited for taking over. Marisol McKee ran away with a victory up against Bonnie Somerville. That's currently technically now 0-4. So obviously the thing is, every time she comes to play, it really kind of depends on her headspace. It wasn't a great match for her. However, this is the best match we've ever seen her play, score-wise. Yeah. Like 17 points is a really great, really great score, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was like, dang.
First of all, before we talk about anything else, I got to say is the entrance and the back and forth with Shannon was definitely something we hadn't seen in the Schmoedown in a while, and I don't think I've ever seen Mark Ellis and Christian be that speechless. Mark Ellis's face, no one's made a gif of that yet. They really should, because his face was definitely something to keep on. We didn't know what to do. But the match itself, Bonnie showed chutzpah. She showed some great energy in there. She definitely wants to win. She obviously, she's not, we know what she is. She's not going to be a Schmoedown for lifer kind of thing. She's not watching the matches every week and everything else. Yeah. She's not keeping up, but she wants to compete. She has some knowledge. She has some good knowledge. And it's nice to see her get that 17 points or whatever it was, that highest she's ever scored. Maybe she'll keep going. Maybe she'll get better at it. And maybe it might take some time. But I know some people don't like seeing it because they say she doesn't take it serious, so there's no serious way to do it. But at the same time, if you look at old school wrestling, they had people who have there's championship level matches, but there's also other matches you can have that are just as entertaining. I was entertained thoroughly by this match, by her energy, by her fun. It was a fun match to watch. So at this point, I think you can have both in the Schmoedown and be perfectly fine. While as Marisol, stone cold killer, I love what she has to bring. She's got the ice in the veins, does not get rattled. She wasn't even putting up with Bonnie's antics. It was just, you do what you do, I'm going to do what I do. So I think she has a great future in the Schmoedown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm kind of curious. Dylan, okay, we'll start with you, Dylan, and then Paul. But if you were a manager and you had one spot left remaining on your faction, would you draft Somerville?
Considering
if it was scratch that. If it was if she had one spot remaining and there's a bunch of other people as well, but her name, and she's like, I want another match. Would you give her that match? Would you give her that opportunity potentially?
I would say, here's where I'll land on that one. I'll say that I'll draft her, and here's why. Last spot, guaranteed a match. Is it guaranteed a win? No, probably not. But at 0-4, you're either getting paired up against people who are just going to knock you out cold, or you're going to get paired up against a rookie. And you never know. If I've learned anything from that last match and her previous matches, Bonnie's knowledge, movie-wise, is there. There's a core structure that's there. Gameplay-wise, if you're a manager, you can work with that. It's rough. It's don't get me wrong. That's showing I've never been both equally impressed and disappointed at the same time. So match overall with somebody's performance on that, but as a manager, it's your job to be able to work around with that. All right, the knowledge is going to improve the gameplay. I'm not saying she's going to be an ace competitor, but she might be able to get you a win.
You could put her in teams, maybe too.
That was what Christian did suggest as well.
Because she has that structured knowledge. You put it into somebody who knows what they're doing, who has the gameplay, and can help work her through that. That's something that could potentially be that underrated team. You don't think much of them, and then they strike and they get you a win or two. For a last slot on the draw, you're gonna get a match. If you put it on a team, that team is gonna get a match.
You're gonna get a match. Yeah.
We've had players who haven't had matches yet this year. I mean, part of that's COVID. I get it, but I don't know, man. I think you like the idea that you can't win if you're not playing, and this way you're going to play. So absolutely, I think I might take a shot at her.
Yeah.
Something I would be concerned with is that this is her 4th match, and she still has a hard time with the rules.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like time ran out, and she's like, "Wait, can I get a JTE?" And it's like, "No, it's time out. You had like 15 seconds, like things like that." Like, did a countdown and everything. But there were a few moments like of that where I'm like, how I feel like I would force her to sit down and watch like a whole bunch of matches and like kind of quiz her a little bit and just be like, okay, about like multiple choice and things like that. I would want to test her a little bit to see how she would do and how it kind of holds, because and maybe it depends on that day and time, honestly, because there's some days where she's there to play and other times where she's like chill,
Yeah.
So it just kind of depends on what what kind of Bonnie, no pun intended, shows up. So okay, so last but not least, the big daddy, the big kahuna, the big match from Friday, the Schmoedown Throwdown.
Before you go into that, we should say that breakdowns and all the other matches you can find them on our channel. We had Marisol with Alex. We had Andres with Danny. And were you on that one too, Alex? I can't remember. Were you on that one?
I was with Marisol.
So Danny and Kelsey. Maybe Danny and Kelsey were with Alex. We have so many.
We print like 15 of these a day now. We're losing track of who goes where.
And Danny and I did. I did the James White one.
Right.
Yeah.
So those are on our channel if you want to go back and look at the more in detailed depth breakdowns at that point. So, Alex, continue.
Like you mentioned for the Schmoedown Throwdown, so we have a singles championship match between Ethan Irwin going up against Dan Merle for the 3rd time. For the singles championship match. Ethan Irwin obviously representing the usual suspects, and the Finstock Exchange's, favorite, arguably best competitor, is Dan Merle. This is not only the 3rd time they played, but this is also the defining one. Like, which one is better? Because each of them have defeated each other once. So going to the 3rd one, we're like, oh no, we have no clue. So you guys, I know we kind of talked about it previously, but I'm gonna have to have you guys take a slight lead on this because I feel bad. I was in the middle of watching it, and I might have took a nap in the middle of the match.
Wow.
Well, then Schmo confessions, everybody. Hashtag Schmo confessions.
That's because, we've been doing so many of them.
It wasn't intentional. I didn't realize how tired I was. I was like working in the yard and stuff all day. And then out of nowhere, I sat down to watch the match, and I watched the team match and everything. And I was like clocked out for a good 15 minutes. From the very beginning of the 1st round to the end of the 3rd round. It was ridiculous. I felt so awful. So I'm going to have you guys take the lead on this match in particular.
That's particularly fun. I mean, we went into the match, and like you said, it was kind of like the rubber match and everything else. Dan's had another great little run, which is not surprising. He just has these kind of runs in him. Pretty much his entire career has been one big run overall. A couple of missteps here and there, but this recently has been another big one. Ethan Irwin has always been someone who is definitively one of the best of all time as far as pure knowledge. I want to say Bateman said it the other day when he says that there's anybody you could think of when you go up against them that somebody could beat me I could have my best game and Ethan Irwin could still beat me. There's only a few people in the league you could say that about. And Irwin is definitely one of them. Stats up there for Megs. Thank you very much, Megs, as always. Now, this definitely lived up to the bill. It definitely lived up to the bill. No doubt about that. I mean, we went to sudden death, and the whole time was back and forth. A few missteps. At some point, it was like, I think Merle had one that was, Merle had what? 6 points in round 1. It was 7-6 after round 1. That's not like Merle. Merle doesn't get a 6-point round 1. So right away, I felt like is he ready? Is something going on? I don't know. It doesn't seem like him. And anybody else were kind of like, it's 6 points. But Merle, you're like, wow. How did you feel about that, Dylan, after the first round?
Yeah, first round, I was surprised. Not that Irwin was necessarily on top, but just seeing Merle put down at 6, 6 in this level of play at a championship match, like you get surprised by that. You expect 7 or perfect rounds across the board. Not to say that's a bad showing or anything at all, because I mean, yeah, for sure, he definitely picks it up in the next couple of rounds and takes the lead in rounds 2 and 3, I think, or at least comes really close after the betting round. But yeah, overall, I was surprised to see Merle down, but I had Irwin going in on this match. Irwin's my dude. Irwin is a better, more successful me. Look at the faces, guys. Look at the faces. All right, same dude. So Merle would be my dad. I don't know, or not Merle. Irwin might actually be my dad. But that, all jokes aside, there, yeah, Irwin is a beast. I think the story here for me was seeing that him come in after being cold for most of the season, right? So we'd only really seen him since the beginning, and he hadn't really got a chance to play. And true, that's true for Merle as well. But Merle got a title defense against Bateman earlier on in the season,
right?
So this was a slobber knocker, man. After it was so close, it was always 1 point differences on the little swings, right? Irwin takes the first lead. Merle takes the lead for the next couple of rounds. Irwin comes back, and they end up tied into the round 5. This was a tempo.
I definitely will say, really quick, going back to the first round, that the first round questions were much harder this time. They definitely have this. It's almost like they must have some kind of structure. I don't know this, but like matches, like debut matches, like tournament matches, and then like championship matches. The round 1 questions get kicked up a notch. But almost like not like 1 pointers, they're almost like all 2 pointers, almost.
Right.
Yeah.
And then round 2. So round 2 would happen, and he spun away from movie release dates, which and he ended up taking Spike Lee. And he did pretty good with that. He did pretty good with Spike Lee, but it was interesting to see where that was going to go. Whereas Merle spun away from courtroom drama and even said it was kind of a too widely ranged category.
Yes. Well, that category in particular is very similar to spy movies, where it can either completely bite you in the ass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It could be the most random movies, everything from, Primal Fear with Richard Gere to, down to Legally Blonde, to Kill a Mockingbird. There's a lot of, movies and genres that it spans. So it's very difficult to study, dang near impossible. However, very similar to, that's like mentioned with spy movies, like, you may think you're good at spy movies, like everyone's seen spy movies and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, there's like a bazillion of them.
Yeah. Courtroom thrillers, even. Think about that for a second.
That is true. That's and there's so many of them that it's not. One thing about it too is a lot of them are similar type movies. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're still the same movies. They kind of have the same basic storyline ish in a way, so you can get definitely details. It can get confusing at some point with that kind of category specifically. So it's probably good that he spun away and got fantasy sci-fi. And it ended up helping him out definitively because, after Spike Lee, Dan Merle was able to take the lead in round 2, or at least tie in round 2. Either way, he was make up for round 1 definitively. I don't know if it was a tied after round 2 or not.
I think it was just short in round 2, and then Merle pulls ahead after the betting round because he bet 1 point. Right?
Yeah, it was the betting point. That was the big thing on that.
Yeah.
And they ended up getting movie release dates, and that was the thing. Go ahead.
Honestly, that round right there is the biggest one for me. The betting round, going in, movie release dates, and I totally get it. If I'm Irwin, that question could either be like that could come from who know where, and especially it being a possible 3-point question per se, the difficulty you expected to go deeper.
Right.
What movie was it for?
It wasn't actually that deep question. It was Top Gun.
Top Gun, that's right. What year did Top Gun?
Wait, don't tell me. Is that 86?
It is 86.
It is 86. Right. So having a question like that come out, this was so much a fortune favors the bold, right? Like if you're brave enough to make the bet, then you would have came out. And honestly, it came down to being a 1-point game if you really look at it, no matter what. They went into overtime by the time it was all said and done. Ethan bets 1 more point on this, he wins into the 3rd round. But that's championship level matches, man. That's what I love about it is the razor thin margin, and it showed just how good these guys are. Merle, I think, is consistent. Like nobody needs convincing that Merle is championship level player. Like he is the GOAT, right? But for me, it was heartwarming to see Erwin come back in because I feel like he'd had a couple rough goes. Him come in and still show that he can just go pound to pound with the best like that on any given Sunday. Oh, that was my jam. That was my jam.
One of the only reasons I was like, if I had to root for somebody for outside of factions, outside of points, just for pure personalities, I would like to see Erwin win just because I feel like he doesn't get quite the respect he deserves. I mean, overall he does, but I think there's some level of people like, well, he only won the title once and didn't defend it, and that's it. And he kind of like, I think he deserves more level because he's definitely such a top level player, and he proved it. He proved tonight, but still didn't have that belt. So they almost like people would knock him for that, and I think they shouldn't, but you never know. But the speed round was interesting too. I like this new speed round to a degree. I know I'm very interested to see what's going to happen for Ben Bateman and this kind of thing because Ben Bateman like lived and died and really took advantage of the old speed round. He had that buzzer thing down to a T. I don't think anyone was better than him at that speed round. This is a different kind of speed round that favors more someone like a Merle because she just has to answer questions. But Erwin did get a point back from that. He actually got all in. They all answered questions right, but Merle didn't answer the one question. So it still wasn't enough for him. So I'm interested to see how people like that have adjusted to it and what that's going to be like in the future as far as other people. And talking long-term future, when we get back to normal real-life studio stuff, whether we're going to have which way we're going to do it, potentially Champion's Choice, which is going to be interesting to say too. So.
Not kidding. It's definitely from what little I saw. I hate to be that person, but it's I'm looking at the stats here. Now, like I said, I did not see the second round. I did not see the betting round from what I remember. And I barely saw a smidgen of the third round. Now, the thing is, looking at these stats alone, I am just really impressed with both these competitors, obviously, like stats wise. But, I'm really curious about, these steals from Ethan Erwin. Ethan Erwin had that Merle had from Ethan Erwin. So Ethan Erwin,
one steal. Correct? Erwin. So Merle got the one steal on multiple choice. I can't remember the question, and Erwin got it back.
Spike Jonze's debut film.
And he got a 2-point steal, and that's huge for. I mean, that's what it says, right?
No. He got a chance to steal, but did not get the 2-pointer.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood. My bad.
It wasn't on the 1 point. It was a multiple choice.
But regardless, when it comes to categories like directors, I am a tad surprised, just because obviously they are very difficult to ace, obviously. But the thing is, they're finite, a finite amount of movies, so they're hypothetically, in theory, they're easier to study versus like something like courtroom dramas, which all decades, all genres, but as long as it's themes on these, it can. However, when something with Spike Lee, that's only like 20 movies or something like that. Anne Hathaway has in her entire career hasn't done more than 20 movies. Yeah. So if you're gonna make something like that a strength, that is a lot easier to do. It's a lot easier to take advantage of those steals, which I'm a little surprised that didn't happen at this level. But also Spike Lee, that's a very difficult category.
I've been actually going through a Spike Lee watch through myself. One of my watchers have been doing it, but I haven't quite got that far yet. But even I just watched Clockers a couple of days ago. I was like, I know he spits up blood a lot, but I don't know if they actually mentioned the ulcer specifically. I probably might have missed it because it was a late night or something. Yeah. But it's a deep cut. It's a definitely deep cut.
It is. Yeah, there's a lot of little moments for sure. There's not specific information such as like there's not a lot of specific information like what kind of car did this person have or whatever it be, because that's not important obviously in the movie. But what is important is like what action did this person take, where did they go, that kind of thing. So it's not like similar to IG where like they have to know every single finite detail. Every line, you feel me?
Yeah.
Yes. But also Kelsey says, damn, that Schmoedown booty.
Those cheeks done clapped her internet. That's what happened, everybody.
Do you guys have any final thoughts regarding this match in particular and how impressive?
Well, I'll say anytime you go to sudden death, it's impressive. When it's sudden death against with two titans for the championship, there's nothing more impressive than that. As the final question being 10 things I hate about you question, it was a great question. I love it. I was kind of sad that Erwin didn't get it. I was kind of surprised Erwin didn't get it. But at the same time, it's not an easy title. It's like he can't take my eyes off of you versus you and I want me. But I love the question. I love what they did. I love the fact that Ethan Erwin is low key, like, just like, that sucks. No, he's ready to go. He's ready to go. It's not going to shake him in the future. He's going to come being the same old guy that he is. And Dan gets his belt. Dan gets to keep his belt. But interesting to think that like this was such a good match that like some people actually already claimed this is the match of the year. I still would say that for me personally, I still would argue more that Bateman Earl was the match of the year. But this was definitely in the conversation. So I agree.
You went like 10 questions in overtime.
Yeah.
That was a wake for. So.
Bateman and Merle is a strong contender. Star Wars Finals is definitely a strong contender. But when you look at this match overall, you know what? I see it as a total win. If you have Ethan Erwin on your fantasy roster, guess who's just now in the singles tournament? You know, there's silver linings across the board, right? We're always balanced.
I was talking about it actually specifically. The best thing that could happen was him to take Dan to sudden death, lose, and then run the table in the single for fantasy purposes. Run the table in the singles tournament.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's just like and by the way, before I forget, it was also revealed at the end of this match there was an announcement made through the Finstock Exchange. Specifically, Mr. John Roca himself, he did pop on screen and said he also popped up on screen and he did say right out of the gate, he's like, guys, I'm not done. I'm playing in singles. I'm in singles, which I'm like, is this news? I'm sorry, what?
Right.
I mean, I'm sorry, did you plan on playing one singles match for the rest of the season and be okay with it? No.
This was like in other news, water wet. That's what I think. This was not going to happen. No way John Roca was going to go out like that. John Roca gets emotional at the end of his loss, and that's going to always happen. He takes a few days, and he just misses it, and he wants to get back at the ring. That's what he does. So he's going to come back in. He's going to make his announcement. He's back in the tournament. I was not shocked. I would have been much more shocked if he had said he was done.
Right.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Roca came in, and as soon as I saw Roca, I was just like, all right, we already know. Come on, Roca. Come on. We know where this is going. Roca just wanted to be the fourth member of the show.
That's pretty funny, Harold. I like that.
I did tell I remember, I chat with Roca right after we had a mornings with Roca, and he was talking. I was like, yeah, I'm still kind of. It was right after his match, and he's like, yeah, I'm still kind of feeling iffy on it. It sucks, but whatever. And everyone tells me it's really great and everything, but I feel like I should have got that Sid Pollock one. That's another debate for another day. But I even told him, I was like, dude, no offense, but there's no way in hell you're not playing the singles tournament, and let me tell you why. Because one, you're a prideful man, and that's not a bad thing, but you're a prideful man, and you will never, under any circumstances, let the only singles match of the season will be a match that you played against Ethan Erwin be one with a questionable challenge. That's the reason why you lost. But on top of that, it is the only singles match that you competed in is one that you lost, really publicly, and now you're just gonna wait until teams no. We both know that's true. And he's like, well, actually, yeah, my profile done correct. And I was like, I know. Yeah. But it was kind of funny. It was kind of funny to see that. But yeah, he's doing really, really great overall. We did get a Streamlabs from Mr. Oscar Romo. Thank you so much, Oscar. Really appreciate it. Just wanted to drop by and let you guys know that I love everyone here. Everyone except Paul. JK, I love you too, I guess.
Love you too. PLD is actually what he said. I know you're just
whatever. I'm not going to confirm that.
Whatever. The man who knows all the news.
Can't wait for Action Civil War 2, Ben by TKO.
Brandon, I try every week, man, but they just at this point, it's just like adding fuel to the fire. We keep getting more popular. It's the opposite of what I want. But you know what? You're right.
Just want to let you know, Hannah, we just started like 30 minutes ago. So
Yeah.
just want to bring that up.
Started late. We had to rearrange our roster. We have technical difficulties, buddy. You keep throwing everything you got. We're going to keep rolling on in, Brandon Hannah. We see you trying to sabotage our Wi-Fi.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah.
Brandon Hannah is the real, leader behind the Shmoma Booty.
Shmoma Booty.
He is the real, it's he's the real one behind it. It's this guy right here. Who else could possibly be the leader of the Shmoma Booty?
That right there screams Shmoma Booty.
No one else at all. It's just impossible.
This is the weirdest Willy Wonka O-face I've ever seen. Can I see that one more time? Can we get that back on there? Can we get back on screen? Can we?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, real quick.
There we go.
Why?
Wow.
Why is that Shmoma Booty? #. Make sure to screenshot that. And if you go ahead and screenshot this and tweet it at Brandon Hannah, make sure to tag Call to Action. We'll give you a big old heart in that tweet. We'll give you a big old
it might be worth it to join his Patreon just to hear what he has to say about that. That's what I'm going to say. I know he's got to do Patreon out, so it might be worth it just to see what he has to say. And that's harass him. Just to harass him, I'll sign up.
Yep. Harass him with football, guys. Get that Patreon.
Just saying, just want to let you guys know, Brandon Hannah, love him or hate him, the guy's putting out some awesome content. So if you're not familiar, if you did not know, he also has a Patreon, so definitely go check it out. He's a pretty fun Q&A coming up here this Wednesday, so just giving you a heads up, it's going to be pretty fun. We are going to be diving into the match right before the singles champion match, and that was a little
team match.
A little team match between two very interesting teams. The final exam representing Swag that are like really conquering the faction rosters right now, that are kicking so much booty, going up against Shazam that haven't played against since Spectacular. So it's been a while since they've played in general, but playing in a new format. Ooh. Okay, so starting with Paul in particular, what were some of your initial predictions going into it?
Well, I was on the Action Industries page when I was with Ben and Drew. They asked me predictions, and I said I was leaning towards final exams for that exact reason. I thought Shazam might be rusty, and that final exam had actually had Ben building up. But then I realized that because they're taping the tournaments and stuff, that I actually believe probably round one was finished. So probably Bibiani and the kid both had probably taped their matches. They probably actually had their debuts, so to speak, on camera. We just hadn't seen it yet, so that makes sense to me now. They going in, I was thinking final exam, but knowing that, I would have probably changed my answer to Shazam a little bit, because Shazam has better pedigree overall, whereas final exam are a great team, and they've gotten a lot better as they've gone along. They kind of cover each other's gaps and everything else, and they have a good dynamic, which is great. And actually, in a way, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the Shazam dynamic in that way. They had that fun off each other, but they actually do have a lot of knowledge between them as well. But Shazam has been on it a little longer, so the other day after I thought about it, I was not surprised to see Shazam pull it off, pretty much.
Not kidding. Well, technically, going into this match, they're at like 5-1 as a team?
Yeah,
or something along those lines. Please let me know if that is incorrect or correct. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe I'm making it up. Who knows? But for some reason, I have that in my head. Versus, final exam, they've only played 3 matches. Well, scratch that. This would have been their 3rd match as a team. So they were definitely the underguard coming into it. But at the same time, they're definitely one of the most talked about teams this season, with 2 really interesting competitors. Obviously Paul Oyama being a former singles champion, that's definitely having his own little redemption story himself, coming back from trying to get that belt again. But also Lon's like a homeless dude that's living in Michigan that is trying to open up a soda shop in an RV. So how much about movies does the guy know realistically?
I think I catch it a lot just by osmosis. He probably has a lot of movies going around behind him and on the background there, and he'll just start catching on.
Just like actually living in those movie theaters. That's it.
I bet he's definitely crashed at a few movie theaters for a couple of weeks, and the guys didn't even recognize he was there. He's just in the background with some bags of popcorn.
They've done with like a wax statue.
The Delinquent is definitely going to be in whatever next Kevin Smith's next film is. Like, he's just going to blend in as a character. The Delinquent seems like a Kevin Smith character. If I'm
Low key. I ought to say, because he mentioned it, Lon mentioned it a couple of times on our show, that he and Bibbs used to work at a video store together back in the day. That right there just sounds like a Kevin Smith movie. Bibiani and Lon Harris working at a video store together. That just sounds right like out of Kevin Smith. I would love to see that as a Kevin Smith movie.
Oh, yeah.
I'm waiting for a skit to come out about that. I really love it. Can we get Lon is so cool.
He is.
Lon is the best.
Cool.
I'm
waiting for a Lon after show or radio series or something, like Lon offering like life advice or something.
Oh my god!
Character outside of Guy, I think, in the whole thing, he's now had two successful characters.
Yeah.
So I mean, can't go wrong with that.
Is he?
Yeah. Well, between the Professor and the Delinquent.
Successful characters.
Or successful as a gimmick. He didn't, much, but he was over as a gimmick definitively.
Well, I do know that Lon has mentioned specifically that being with the Professor, it was actually very difficult for him to compete with that character because he would mention that he was so focused on being the character, he would have a hard time like staying focused and recalling the knowledge. So it wasn't a very good, effective character for him to play in particular. So
I would also argue, he also mentioned yesterday, it wasn't just that specifically. It was also the fact when he first came into the league, he saw it as more of a show. He saw it as more of a, not a trivia competition. He saw it more as of an entertainment thing. So he concentrated more on the character specifically. If he tried to do Professor now, if he started doing Professor now, he could probably handle it a lot better than he did then. Although he did say he was starting to run out of foreign names to say, so he didn't know what else because he's not actually that guy. So he was making up names left and right at the end there, I think. So I always started checking to see, was that guy really a director? Or are you just totally making that up now? I don't know.
Oh, Annette, well, do you have any final thoughts, specifically, Dylan, regarding Lon in particular?
Lon is specific. Other than I can't wait to get that Kevin Smith idea rolling. Yeah, I'll say this. I think that Paul actually had a really interesting thing because not only is Lon so impactful for this team, it's now impacting Shazam, as we even got to see for a little bit on the Shazam banter where we got Brandon the Teen Meyer, unofficial, where he's just sitting there and he's just angsty and fighting with Bibbs at the beginning of that. Oh my gosh.
Come back.
So much fun.
It was everything. Oh my gosh. I never wanted to have a beanie so much in my life. Oh my gosh. So good. Okay, so let's just kind of dive into the stats really quick. I'm gonna have to pull it up again. So again, thank you so much to Megs. Such an awesome lady for like putting these together for us. So appreciative of her. As you can see through here, both Lon and Oyama, they finished the first round with with a solid 12 points going up against Shazam's 15. So walking away from the first round, obviously, Shazam was definitely doing a wee bit better, and so I was kind of curious how they're going to try to close that gap with some potential steals or whatever might be in the second round. But overall.
Well, the big news there is Bibbs. Bibbs got a perfect round and got the bonus points. That's where you have the 2 points at there.
Yeah.
So.
That was everything, too. I mean, that really was. If you look at the score coming down to a 2-point game, like, Brandon had kind of dropped the ball, and boy, was there a lot of technical difficulties not making that or those rounds any easier.
We had greater tech than they did at that point.
I know. Well, we can relate with that right now. But yeah, Bibbs really clutching it out in the end. It seemed to be a really rough first round for Brandon, and if he happened to
recover though, he missed the first two and then he recovered.
Absolutely recovered. But yeah.
But thing is, okay, so you say it was kind of a rough round for Brandon. Right. However, his version of rough is still literally a 6 out of an 8.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just kind of put that in perspective.
Right. Well, more the idea that he got the first 2 wrong.
He got the same score as Dan Merlin championship match. So just want to point that out there.
No, absolutely. I think it's definitely more of a perception thing because it was like 2 in a row at the beginning that he missed. All of a sudden, like you're in a championship match and you're missing the first 2 questions.
Yeah.
That
At that point, it's very psychological. If you, especially as one of the younger people and that's on screen, you know, you definitely want to prove that you can pull your weight as for your team, obviously. And you know, Brandon, and he was like, oh, I'm so sorry, I don't have this. And it was kind of weird because he was almost seemed like he was apologizing to Bibbs.
Yeah.
And he, Bibbs, I'm so sorry, I didn't have this movie. And Bibbs, no, we're good, we're fine.
You know, interesting other dynamic I noticed in this match is that Bibbs throughout the entire time does refer to Brendan as the kid throughout the entire time. Not kid, not Brendan, not any of that. It's just strictly the kid the entire time. Yeah. And I don't know, something about that I thought it was just interesting. I was just like, man, that is really the relationship there through and through, at least as it's showing in the whole match. But yeah, I mean, exactly to your guys' point. So you're right, 6 out of 8 being a rough round. I mean, again, that is a compliment by my standards because that means you are in this A tier of competition. You are this champion. You're like just short of championship level play, or you're at championship level play, depending on the match. Like these are competitors, right? A tier. I'm gonna do a tier list again one day. Give me time. But yeah, he is this A tier competitor. So I do expect 7 even perfect rounds to be the uncommon thing, right? While the lower than that, 6 or below, those are like those are the rare moments. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, same for Paul. He definitely. I was kind of curious to see if he was because he got 5 out of the 8 questions, and I was kind of curious to see. And he just seemed to like throughout when he got the ones wrong, he's like, oh, I still don't have it. So I was kind of curious to see if that mentality it was going to continue throughout the match overall. Just because it's. It just depends on what kind of competitor you are, and like just if you do really well in match, just keeping that momentum is really great. However, it really shows how much of an amazing competitor you are and just how fantastic you are if you maybe start out not as great as you had hoped and be like, no, I'm still gonna keep on keeping on, with and just and find a way to kind of come back from that, if that makes sense.
Well, I mean, it also helps being in teams. This is where teams helps you out because once you're done with that first round, the only thing you ever have to, you only have one more question that you have to answer that's on your own. That one question around 3 you'll have to answer on your own. So once you get past round 1, you can make it teamwork better. That's what they did, I think.
Yeah, 100%. I think this says so much about the psychology of these players, right? And really any one of them. I mean, really any one of them other than I would say maybe Lon were prone to just being possibly ready to just fall apart if they just had a terrible round, right? If they went like 4 of 8 or something like that. Oyama, Meyer, even Bibbs, for whatever, can you imagine a Bibbs 4 out of 8 round? But, that would probably just tank them mentally, and that takes so much to have to dig yourself out of, right? The biggest enemy in round 1 after that is yourself, and especially we've seen Oyama have these moments where he has nothing to prove. He's a former champ. He went on a run in his rookie year and beat Dan Murrell for the championship. He has nothing to prove on this one, but he holds that expectation for himself. So, and he's definitely the heart of that team. If you're looking at Final Exam, like Lon is definitely like he's there to take the heat off for the character play. He does all of that. Oyama's there to keep Lon on point and sit there and just keep racking up points. So when Oyama feels like he drops that ball, I'm so glad that they managed to recorrect and bring it back into round 2 because that easily could have been just lights out for them at that point. And Shazam could have ran away.
Yeah, very true.
Moving on into the second round of the match, Final Exam did get Sly and Arnie. It's definitely you love it or hate it kind of slice, but also Shazam. They ended up getting Clint Eastwood, also a love it or hate it kind of slice. So these are both
after spinning away from westerns, like
same like
more specific western.
Yeah. Specifically, just want to start with Final Exam, though, getting Sly and Arnie. They did do very well, almost getting a perfect second round, except for question number 3, obviously getting it wrong. Unfortunately, depending on which side you are, Shazam didn't get that either. So Shazam having Clint Eastwood, they ended up getting only 4 out of the 6 questions. In the 4, neither one of them were able to get that multiple choice. I believe that's the I can't remember if that's number 4 or number 6 was like the Korean versus Vietnam War question.
Yeah, that's one they got right. That's the one that they were able to steal.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah, you're right. That was number 6 then. Okay. Gotcha. So these are very difficult rounds. So what were some of your thoughts overall, guys? Starting with Paul.
Well, I feel like final exam, they knew they were in a hole. They were in a hole already. They knew that. So they kind of, when they spun away from John Hughes, they went to Sly and Arnie. They got Sly and Arnie. And that's not a bad round for them. That's not a bad category for them, obviously. They did a good job. They did everything they needed to do for the most part. I said, like you said, four out of the 6 were 2-point questions that they got right. They got 1 for multiple choice. They just missed the 1. And the steal... Well, just bringing that up, really, the way they do steals now definitely is psychologically different because in the middle of the match before when you're in the studio, you have that question, you miss that 3rd question, and they steal you right away, right then and there. That's a psychological thing. Now it's like they have to wait till after the round's over, then they see if they get a steal. It's not quite as psychologically damaging, I don't think. I mean, it's just how it looks to me. It doesn't feel like it stops any momentum that way because you're not stopping any momentum. It's already done. But at Shazam, I mean, they got Clint Eastwood, and they went through and did Go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, it just kind of went blank there I think my connection kind of went wonky there for a second. Everything went black there for a second. I was like, what's going on? Unfortunately, yeah, so I do know Leo Logan did mention Shazam were debating between Korean and Vietnam War, and then it backfired on him. I do want to let you know, Leo, is that when the teams are answering their questions, the other team is not in the green room on StreamYard. They can't listen in. So I just want to let you know, so they can't hear them debating between the 2 answers. So I just want to give you a heads up. They're in completely different, so they can't hear what answers are, given. Okay, what about you, Dylan? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, round 2 definitely says volumes on making a comeback, but I really enjoy a round where nobody really gets a strength or nobody really gets a specific weakness, but they just get these middling categories, right? Where it's really all right, this is where we have to really show off how we can navigate movies that we may have seen once and we're trying to get it together, or, we hit it and we just crush it out of the ballpark. Sly and Arnie and Clint Eastwood are 2 categories they did not want, that both of these ones they got saddled with it, pun intended. And I think that it shows, yes, you hear the drum sounds from a mile away. But you really do see just the skill level of these teams to sit there and be able to navigate it in a way and still come out strong into round 3. I think I'm more impressed overall with the chemistry on final exam in this one. Just because, I expect just such a crazy wealth of knowledge between Meyer and Bibbs. Lon and Oyama, I'm convinced. Lon is definitely there, but it's always just like, I feel like Lon may have watched these just because the delinquent seems like a character who would watch Sly and Arnie, but like Oyama could be a total question mark. You don't know if he's seen these, but seeing that they're like navigating it through and having that age difference make, this is an older movie. I've probably seen this next time. It shows everything what I want to see. It shows all the strength of a team. You show all that chemistry working together. And the one positive thing that we see in these StreamYard matches now is the team communication, right? Seeing them kind of figure it out and get it apart. Normally it's whispers to us in the studio. This is the one thing that I almost want to have just them mic'd up for, because I want to hear this behind the scenes stuff. In future seasons.
I love it. I love the behind the scenes stuff. That's just great. I mean, I guess I know why they don't love it. In fact, something we didn't touch on real quick about the other match is that the idea that they have code phrases now. Some of the managers have developed. It's almost like a one-up. They're trying to figure out how to get past the limitations.
You're stealing my strategy. That's what they're doing. They're stealing them. That's what I have to do with my competitors as well in the fan leagues, because this is what we do. We have.
And it worked for the betting round for Dan and Gucci.
Using my code words.
April, May, the months that won to get the title back.
Yeah, exactly.
Feeling green, red, blue, orange.
All right.
Psychologically.
The background orange. Got to go orange.
Yep.
So where are you on vacation? France. Code word. Take it up. It's also really kind of interesting to see, you know, when they played against, you know, whatchamacallit, the Pride, you know, their strength, what the slice they ended up taking during Spinner's Choice was Adam Sandler, and now they took Sly and Arnie. So obviously they're kind of iffy. These kind of very specific slices like this are clearly, you know, strengths of theirs. So I'm excited to see them try doing slices like spy movies or romance or costume drama, something a little more broad, you know, really kind of challenge them a little bit more for sure. Okay, last but not least, I'm just going to dive real quickly into the third and final round before we kind of go into some of our main topic of the evening. So what do you guys think of the third round in particular? Starting with Paul.
Third round, well, I mean, they got Drew Barrymore and Oyama got it, and they just had Disney for Lon had it, and they just couldn't pull their 5-pointer. But at that point, it's starting to be like a thing where you have to be in a certain shot of getting to in the third round. When you're down by so much, you can go in even if you answer all your questions. If they just have to answer their 2 and 3, like it's just psychologically damaging to me, because you know that it almost doesn't matter what you do. You got to, but you can't concentrate on that. And they did a good job not concentrating on that. They just said, okay, I got to answer my questions, or answer the questions that are put in front of me, and they pretty much did the job until they couldn't hack the 5-pointer.
It was, I mean, and a lot of people might know it. I know it was like what 1995 movie or something like that. You know, drama has the following characters: this, and this.
Right.
And if you grew up with a movie like Winston, he's like, I knew it right away. But if you're not, it is a very tough question for sure. What are you, Dylan? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this round sucked. I wanted the Final Exam to win, so nothing at all against Shazam. I love Shazam on this one, but I had Oyama and Harris. I'm loving this chemistry there. But yeah, that 5-pointer, I think contextually, if you look at the question, it's maybe not a 5-pointer in how many clues that it gives away. But at the same time, you've either watched it or you don't, and it comes down to that stuff. Oyama, I feel this question is more for Lon, and that's total age bias, right? And that's not to say that Oyama doesn't know movies that are older than him. Obviously, go watch him on classics for most of his our games. But the 90s is a very specific, you know, that we look in the decade, the 1990s. Sorry, guys, we got to clarify that now in Schmoedown. Shade. But yeah, so that one, that's one's rough. But I think the real story here is the pure chances of Shazam making it work in round 3. Because Bibbs even admitted in the post credit where he said, I did not know Meyer's thriller question, and he's like, I'm glad that we heard Dan's like, yeah.
I was so proud I knew that one. I was like, it's either Albert Brooks or it's Ron Perlman. But I couldn't. But to me, their characters were very interchangeable. You know, they're both like the gangsters, and one of them gets killed, and it's like, right. Anyway. But yes, I do know that Menace to Society was 93. I just whipped out a number as hypothetical. Leo, just want to give you a heads up. But yeah, it was great overall. And you know, when things sometimes the stars just line up so where it's just like, I'll take this one, you take that one, and it just works, you know? And I know Bibb low-key loves dance movies, even though he doesn't say he's good at dance movies.
So your hand on the strengths.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of the day, the accuracy right here does tell a story. I know Brandon Hannah's favorite term is accuracy, but Shazam had 88% accuracy. Whereas Final Exam at 74 at one point. That's significant. Although it's funny, I mean, it's something I didn't mention. Forgot to mention it during the Merle match. I think Merle actually had a lower accuracy than Irwin did.
Ethan had a higher accuracy by like 6 or 8 points or something. Which is
impressive. But that doesn't matter, honestly. It doesn't accuracy when it comes to matches in particular. Some people are talking about like, oh, this person had a higher accuracy than this person, therefore they really won. Like, no, that's not the way the match works.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, but accuracy does.
No, absolutely. It's kind of cool to see, though. It really is. Kind of adds, general accuracy ratings for so many competitors and everything.
Just saying, high accuracy. That's a big. When you're getting like 90% of the right, you're probably going to win a lot of your matches.
Right.
90% of the right.
Not only that, a 14% difference seems like a lot, but then when you look at the scores by the time it all wrapped up, like it felt like it was down to the wire. It came down to the 5-point, regardless of how big the difference in accuracy is. So.
Not kidding. Okay, well, that kind of wraps up our excuse me, that kind of wraps up the matches for the day. So overall, that was it for the Schmoedown Throwdown from Friday, and also the little announcement from Roka himself. So overall, how did you guys feel walking away from that match? Was it overall everything you dreamed of, everything you expected, or you were like, okay?
For the Shazam final exam,
for the Throwdown overall.
Well worth the money. That's what I say. Well worth the money. If you were a $10 patron, you got like 3 of these or whatever this month and everything else. That right there was a well worth the money. That Merle alone was worth the money. And then you add on a great competitors, great characters like Lon Harris and the kid, and it's well worth it. So it's just what I want on a Schmoedown. It's everything I want to Schmoedown.
Oh yeah, I can't shell hard enough. If you're not at that $10 Patreon level on Schmoedown, guys, you are getting your dump chunk of your money worth just this month. Literally, just this month, if you just wanted to sub and be just a little brave, you're like, I don't want a Patreon. Just this month, just getting the collection that you get from it is absurd.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's like the $30 for paying $10 a piece.
Yeah.
For all
the alone is worth $10 easy.
Yeah.
And then we get the tag team stuff, and then we get all the other stuff. Guys, you're sleeping on it. And again, I know financial situations, all that. But if you're if you need that push, now's the time.
And of course, now the time. Not only that, you get all these things. But if you throw your $10 in, you actually have access to all the old exhibitions and everything else that you got before too, as well. Just throwing it out there.
You hoard them. You just got to grab them.
There's so many of the exhibition matches I haven't seen. Still haven't seen the one between Kaiser and Bobby Gucci.
It's a fun one.
I heard it's amazing. I still need to see it though. Okay, so we're going to be going into another segment of the episode, from this match. It is all right, speculate and listen. Okay, so with this match, obviously, so just kind of want to follow up with this. The person that's going to be going next week, where it's going to be between Andrew Guy up against Andrew Guy is going to be versus Ben Bateman, also like Kevin Smith up against Jericho.
28th now, though. It's the 28th. They did change the date. It's a Friday.
Oh, right.
It's an older picture,
yeah, this is an older picture. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts? What do you guys think is going to happen?
Pure entertainment. That's what is going to happen. All right. So let's start with the Action Dad Part 2, guys. I think that's where we should start on that one. Guy wins. So then you look at Jericho and Kevin Smith, and it was a lot of fun. It actually reminded me a lot of R&B and Gucci's match.
Gucci.
Yeah,
a little more knowledge involved.
A little bit more knowledgeable, but it felt rough on that one. But anyway, so the Bateman Guy match, that one's gonna be sweet. I can't wait. But Jericho and Kevin Smith is if you're talking about a match that's making people who've never watched Schmoedown before come watch Schmoedown, this is the match to talk about. And it's a coin flip. But Kevin Smith's on my fantasy roster right now, so Kevin Smith takes it.
I worry that some people might not some people are going to look at this. There's some faction or some bit of our fandom here that's going to be like, oh, they're not really, because they're not going to be, they might not be as good as a Dan Merle or something like that kind of thing. If they have more of a Bonnie type match, people get upset about it.
I was going to say exactly that. Yeah, if there's a Bonnie situation, I'm going to be like, guys, you need to go ahead and get
Kevin Smith. It's fucking Kevin Smith and Chris Jericho. You're getting eyes on the Schmoedown like you've never gotten before. So
right.
Please. But with that in mind, I think it's exciting, man. I think it's going to be because their personalities alone are going to light up the screen no matter where they are. We got Kevin Smith coming on SCN Live on Tuesday as well, by the way. I know that was announced back. That's fucking awesome. Yeah. If I have to make my prediction, I think I'm actually going to lean towards Jericho. And the reason why is that I love Kevin Smith. I think he has a wealth of trivia knowledge. Like I said, he knows movies like nobody else, but I don't think he has that 15-second recall. Mm-hmm. I think his brain is not exactly always there. I mean, let's face it, he likes to chill. He'd be a great candidate for chilled action. For that reason.
Broke his way right on into that show.
He slid right in there. But that's the thing is that he does. I don't know if he can pull it in 15 seconds. I think he given because a lot of times you watch him talk about movies, he was always like, "Oh yeah, and he'll take a little bit of a while to get to that movie. He knows it. He's in there somewhere. He just gotta access it. The filing cabinet's a little hard to open sometimes. Whereas Jericho. But then again, I say that, but Jericho's got a lot. How many chair shots to the head has Jericho got?
Concussions versus years of smoking weed, where is it, right?
So I'm gonna lean Jericho, but I would be surprised either way. So
All right, Dylan. Oh, wait, go ahead, Dylan. You do.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, and it's strange though because I'm kind of with you though, Paul. Like my heart says Kevin Smith, but if you ask me, who just has just this competitor spirit, right? Who has just this flair to want to go in? It screams Jericho in that though too. But really, I'm going to give the cop-out answer even after saying Kevin Smith on that one and say the fans win because as long as as long as us as fans get off our high horses and don't expect an incredibly technically played match, because exactly what Paul said, we could after watching Bonnie this match, I was like, if Jericho and Kevin Smith goes like this, I already hear the chat just being obnoxious, and I'm like, guys, do you not think that Chris Jericho and Kevin Smith maybe have better things to do than to learn all the rules start to finish perfectly before then? No, it takes players seasons to get this down. It's their first match. Let them play sloppy. Let them be fun. Let them just show off trivia and be entertaining. That's
trash talk. That's what happened. There's trash
talk.
All
the trash talk. All of the trash talk.
All the
fun. Yeah,
I'm hoping that somebody spins Kevin Smith on the wheel.
Oh my god, yeah, and you know they have to. It has to be on there, and it has to be hit. It has to be hit, man. It feels like a fail if it doesn't land on Kevin Smith for the reason that's just.
I'm never for rigging a wheel, but that's the only time I think I'd ever consider it, just for that purpose at all. But
especially right after a guy match, a rigged wheel. That's par for the course, guys. It has to be rigged twice in a row. Why not?
It's definitely kind of a weird situation that we're in. Again, we're in this. I feel like Schmoedown's changing so much, and and unfortunately, we were put in a situation where all of our matches have to be digital and everything, and with the virtual wheel and all that good stuff. It's amazing. Christian and Ellis were like, well, got some troubleshooting to do. And they could have been like, we're just going to scrap this season and start over next season. They were like, F it, no, we're going to be going head on and just keep on with these awesome matches. And it just keeps blowing up. And I honestly don't know if we would have this match if it wasn't for our current situation. So I don't know if we would be able to have Jericho and Kevin Smith realistically if it wasn't virtual. So I am supremely grateful that this is we have this opportunity to kind of go through. I'm so grateful that, people on the upper tiers of Schmoedown that are able to really not only have the connections, but really get this going. And also Roxy making Jericho happen. Oh my gosh, girl, good for you. Amazing. My money also is on Jericho.
It's funny you say that.
Personally, because Kevin Smith, he's kind of infamous for it. Like in interviews, you ask him one question and he'll give you a 20-minute answer. And that's the entire thing. You don't have enough time to provide anything else. And like you said, his recollection when it comes to things off the top of a hat, when it comes to movie news, is movie stuff is very here and there. So I am kind of curious. Also, he gets stuff about his own movies wrong all the time. He'll be like, yeah, Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back came out in 2012.
Don't think be that off. I don't think it was that off.
Things like that, where he gets stuff regarding his own movies incorrect sometimes, and he's like, oh, in that general time period, whatever. But Jericho, he's getting knocked on chairs and stuff all the time, and that takes its toll on the body. It takes its toll on the brain as well, obviously. So I'm kind of curious of how that's going to handle. But the man is very vocal about it. He says he studies.
I don't doubt it, because he's a very competitive person.
Yeah,
he's a very competitive person.
Weird is there.
Yeah, so and he has a movie podcast, or he has some kind of movie web show or something like that. So I'm gonna give him the slight edge, but also Andrew Guy is obviously gonna obliterate Bateman. So
we're gonna talk about that thing. Yeah, guys got Bateman hand down. I mean, come on now. We're team Guy here. There's no way.
Guys, come on now. What is your so that wraps it up for our quick speculations for upcoming this week. Let's just kind of dive into real fast, just real quick skim over the upcoming matches for this week.
Sure.
That is Tomorrow it's going to be Lon Harris versus Graves. Who do you guys think is going to win that one?
My money's going to be on Lon. I think that Sabine doesn't play enough, and I think Lon's in the moment. So I think Lon.
Yeah, Lon's hot right now. He's on the momentum. So I want to give it to him just for that edge right there.
Same. Lon across the board. All right. Yeah. Moving on to match number 2. That's going to be on Tuesday, Preston versus Zipper. Who do you guys have?
Don't do this to me. I love them both so much.
I don't want a full-on explanation. Just give me with your gut answer.
Zipper.
Zipper? Okay.
Zipper.
And all right, over to you, Paul.
Come back to me. What do you got?
I'm going to go with Zipper myself, but also I'm all about upset city, you know?
There's always going to be some upsets in there. Maybe I'm going to go Zipper too. I think I'll go Zipper else as well. I think I would not be shocked if Paul wins, but Zipper.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah, Paul's definitely favored, I think. But
but at the end of the day, it's just Zipper. I love Zipper so much. Yeah. Moving on to Yater Paramo versus Vejvoda, who we saw previously perform in the Star Wars match. So that's going to be an interesting one. Okay, so Yater obviously coming hot off his match against Brittany from the dungeon. So that's going to be pretty interesting. What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Don.
I got you. So I actually got Vejvoda in this one. You know, Veda's knowledge is really set for singles. So I mean, it'll be. I think this is his place. The rules are a little bit iffy for him, but I think this is his place. Paramo, I think, will play better though.
Mm-hmm. I just like how you move it around. Considering, I'm sorry, I can't move it. I apologize. This I don't have on hand, unfortunately. I'm gonna go with Jader, personally. The guy studies. The guy is like very vocal about it, so I'm gonna go with him. So that's just my gut. Moving on to the next one. I
gotta give mine. I'm gonna go with Jader as well. Barely, or Jader.
I respect it.
I respect it. Okay.
Don't have another match you don't have in this because now we also have that same day, the 19th. We're getting the double header. The 19th also has Vinny Mancuso versus Sabrina Ramirez as well. Now that's picked in there. Yeah. So we can also talk about that real quick. I don't even know this one. I don't know enough about Vinny Mancuso to really make a good decision, but I want to see Sabrina. I want to see if Sabrina really show what she's got, but I'm almost going to pick an upset and go with Vinny.
Yeah. Alex, you go ahead.
I'm going to go with Brandon, the kid.
No, Sabrina Ramirez.
Sorry, I apologize.
It's not on there. Sabrina versus Vinny Mancuso.
Yep.
I'm going to take this down. Actually, don't need this up.
I'm going to go with Sabrina, honestly. Vinny did have a really great, solid debut, though.
That's so fun. That's so fun. See, this is why when Chat asks why Dylan isn't on more streams, because I get ruined. You put me in this middle box, and you put ads over me. I'm going to put Vinny on this one because Vinny's on my fantasy draft. So I need him to win.
I'd love to see Sabrina go. I'd love to see Sabrina go far. I really would. I think, but I've heard some great things about Vinny, so I don't know. We're going to go with Vinny. So
yeah.
All right, now we have the kid versus Alonso Duralde.
Oh God, this totally goes on round 2, and it makes or breaks this whole match. But I'm going to give it to Brendan Meyer on this one.
I gotta go the kid also. I think the kid Alonso seems to be one of those guys who has great knowledge, amazing knowledge, but never quite gets over the hump because of gameplay or something. I think that kid just ready to go. I think it's gonna be the kid.
Mm-hmm.
Same. Yeah. I believe that's the last match of the week. I want to say, is that correct?
No, I think we have.
But they have
the throwdown, of course.
The throwdown.
Oh yeah, that we already talked about with Jericho versus.
No. That's next week's. Yeah, this week's the teams one we have. Boss versus Shazam and Founding Father versus Corruption.
Oh, there's so many.
So many matches, guys. Look, can we just say, look at us? I've aged 10 years just thinking about this. I haven't even done any of the breakdowns. I'm just aged from everybody else doing them.
I almost nowhere left. All right, so the Boss versus who's the Boss versus Shazam? I think Shazam has been power hungry, but I'm going to go Who's the Boss. I feel like they're ready.
No, wait. Okay, so I just want to make sure it's Founding Fathers versus Corruption, and then Shazam versus Who's the Boss.
Yep.
Okay. I thought you said Shazam versus Founding Fathers. My bad.
It's the number one contender match. Who's the Boss versus Shazam. The winner will face the winner of Founding Fathers and Corruption.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Who's the Boss over Shazam by a briefest amount. Although Bibiani's playing so well right now, and Bateman might be rusty, so I don't know. But I'm still gonna lean towards Who's the Boss right now.
I'm gonna give it to Shazam. You know, I think that there's gonna be some ring rust coming into that one. They got that out of the way, but I think if the internet messes up Bibbs, I actually just automatically give it to Who's the Boss, though, because the internet is the biggest heel to Bibiani after this last tag team match, I think.
Yeah. I have to say, low key, I do think, realistically, I do feel like Who's the Boss is going to win. Just because Bibbs has not been able to beat Ben, and Ben is all about that psychological warfare. If he whispers a line to Bibbs, Bibbs is done. Bibbs just cracks.
I wonder if that happens over the StreamYard as well as it does in person.
Yeah, the thing is, when we even watched the Shazam in the match against Final Exam, though, we saw Brendan just being a little iffy. He was definitely, I don't want to say he was all over the place, but he was moving around. You could see him almost like break his attitude a little bit, and Bibbs had to help recenter him. But I don't know if, I personally don't know if Bibbs and the kid have that relationship where the kid can help recenter Bibbs the way Bibbs can help the kid, if that makes sense. And if Bibbs is cracked,
the whole thing falls apart, I think.
And I know Ben is all about the psychological warfare. He knows what he can do to Bibbs. He's never been able to beat him in teams or singles. And so that's why. But I would really love Shazam to walk away with a win.
I would not be surprised if they win. Absolutely, at all. They definitely have.
Mega surprised if they win.
It was very much a 50-50 match. Either one of them could come out on top, and I would say, yeah. I mean, that doesn't surprise me one bit. But I really think it just comes down to format at this point. It's going to be such a weird way to be able to do antics over StreamYard and not worry about like Ellis and Harloff saying, guys, cut the chatter in between. Like, we need the streams to not explode while I have you guys all in here. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. It'll be fun.
Founding Fathers versus Corruption.
Yep.
Guys, can we just move along? I can't make it.
Flipping a coin again. Wait, so who won the last time? Founding Fathers?
Founding Fathers won barely.
Barely won on that. What? Founding Fathers was like a better showing than that. You know what? I'm going to give it to Corruption. For the reason that I just feel like they just keep trading. And I know that Corruption went like I think it's like 2-1 right now. This is like their fourth match, right? So Corruption, Founding Fathers, Corruption. Or Founding Fathers, or Corruption, Founding Fathers. Whatever.
I'm giving it to Corruption because Chance Ellison's been on such a very big, strong run.
So hot. Yeah. So. He is so hot right now. Chance Ellison.
So hot.
Brilliant.
Thing right now. It really, again, just like the other one, it really can go either way. I actually really want Corruption to win, but I feel like realistically, I do think Founding Fathers are going to walk away with it.
Dan is so hot too right now, though.
I say that because Dan Murrell, he feels like he's unbeatable right now. He's on a roll. He's comfortable with this format. He's comfortable doing the speed round in this way as well. Roca also, even though he did lose to Irwin, that was a fantastic match he gave, and he lost because of a technicality on Sid versus Sydney Pollock. And you really I do feel like they voted justly on it, because I would have never accepted, but he lost on a technicality and he clearly knew the answer. But also KO, they're definitely on a roll. Obviously, with both competitors and Corruption going to the finals in IG. But that being said, they've been both studying a lot in IG. Not as
around studying.
So it's
on both. So I would believe the chance.
No, absolutely. It's just that's still they're human, and there's only so many hours of the day. And that's a lot of content to get through and sit through realistically. So
I think it's all going to come down to Kalinowski. To me, that's what it's going to come down to, because I think Chance is going to do well. I think Dan's going to Dan is going to be Dan. Roka's fine. Roka's going to be fine as far as that's concerned. But then it's going to come down to KO, because KO, even though he went for the whole triple belt thing at one point, he was always much better in IG than he was in the singles.
Oh yeah,
he had a good run in the singles, but it's mostly in teams and mostly because of Chance. So I have the feeling it's all going to come down to how Mike Kalinowski does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not kidding. Okay, so that's big. That's another huge one coming up later this week, which I am so excited to see.
That is our action-packed content for next week. We only have to do 15 more hours of covering videos. Make sure that you sign up to go be a
guys, we should actually start scheduling stuff right away, to be honest. Okay, let's kind of dive into, like I mentioned, that was all of our things for the day. We are going to be diving into the next segment of this show, which is, again, well, actually, that was actually, now that I think about it, that was Schmoedown news. And okay, let's just kind of go back into the whole speculate and listen thing. All right, stop, speculate and listen. There you go. Let's kind of talk about what it means to be a heel. The definition of a heel. Who is and isn't a heel? Now, this season in particular, I think starting last year, the definition of a heel is definitely broadening. And some people consider, Josh McCouga a face. Others consider him a heel. And so that's kind of a weird definition. But same for Video Drew. Some people consider a face and a heel. So it's kind of an awkward situation. But it's kind of a weird situation we are in now. And that kind of transition from a face to heel and vice versa. But what makes a heel? What makes a good heel versus a great heel as well? But let's just kind of talk about the definition of a heel specifically. You
got to talk about heel. You got to talk about where it came from. It came from wrestling. Mm-hmm. And the old school definition of wrestling is a heel is someone he's the bad guy, and he makes the audience hate you. The audience should, if you're doing it right, hate you. And you come to watch the heels lose. Roddy Piper was booed out of the stadiums. He was people threatened to murder him. He actually had to they'd have to sneak him out the back door in order to get away from being physically assaulted, stabbed by a crowd. It's ridiculously legitimate stuff that used to go on back in the day. Jesse Ventura the same way, because the crowd hated him so much. And the reason why he did that is because you pay to see Hulk Hogan, the hero of the day back then, kick his ass at the big moments. That's what the audience wanted to see. They wanted to see his ass kick. So technically speaking, the heels right now, the biggest heels right now, going by that strict definition, are Hannah and Chandra. That's a strict definition. Right. Even Guy, who I love as heel of the year and everything else, is a different definition of heel, because Andrew Guy and someone like a Shannon this year, for example, are great heels because they're great smack talkers and they're disrespectful, but they have people loving them. People love them. So that's where it comes down to. That's where the heel definitions start getting a little shady, for lack of a better word. What is a real heel versus kind of a bad guy, but he's loved? So it's hard to exactly explain, almost, in a way.
And this is kind of where I want to tie in that evolution piece. If we're going straight wrestling period, right? We go to these classic antagonists, right? They're just pure villains through and through. You're supposed to boo them. You're supposed to hate them. And then we hit, if we're talking wrestling terms, and what I think is more relevantly heels in the Schmoedown, is the attitude era of heels, right?
I'm going to interject real quickly. That is why I said back in the day, Roddy Piper. That's the original definition of heel. That's what I'm talking about. So.
Exactly right. So carrying that in now, I would agree. I think if you base your idea on a heel, then you start there and you work your way into the evolution of it. As a kid who grew up in the 90s era, and then that's my attitude era of heels, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, all of these people who are hot on the mic, who are very much heel mentality. This is where Schmoedown heels, I think, came in. Roka says openly that The Rock is his biggest inspiration as character on that one. You take Guy, who took it to what I think is the next level beyond, not necessarily beyond Roka, but he definitely up his game and became more iconic in that way as well. And then I think from there, then you start evolving into what I think is the more interesting heels. So I don't want to just put it into a box and say Chandra and Hannah as pure traditional heels. Sure. Then you get Guy, you get Shannon, you get all the people who can drop it, Roka, all hot on the mic. but you kind of love to hate them a little bit, right? Like that is kind of part of the fun. Trust us, if we have any relationship of loving to hate Roka, look at our videos from anywhere from 2018 to before. But we love you, Roka, now. It's all good. So then you look past that, and then you start getting into characters that are technically heels. And I know Alex is going to love to take over on this one. The evolution of not just being a shit talker, but just being somebody who is bizarre but angsty, but you can tell is the antagonist. And that's the best way I can describe it. And when I hear heel, I hear who is the person who I feel like people are kind of against, even the players. And this is where I love Video Drew and Tom's evolution of the heel, right? You take it into this weird, different spectrum they definitely have their moments. Drew especially has moments on the mic where she kind of puts out, and, she's sitting there just like, oh, how do you spell cat, Christian? That famous, lovely line on it. But you have these little moments where they're, my internet is a heel, exactly right. The ones you love to hate. I think this is kind of where it's gone from you want to hate them to, oh God, I hate them, but they're so entertaining. I love them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's, some people are kind of bringing up in the chat is, in order to be not only a good heel, but a great heel, you need to have the audience boo you. They have to be against you as well. So some characters such as Andrew Guy and Shannon Barney, obviously fantastic characters, people that we love. Thing is, they say nothing but derogatory things. Sometimes, in a lovable way towards their own faction sometimes, but also against other competitors, other managers as well. And it's so great that we love them so much. But the thing is, they're not booed when they say these things, they're cheered. So does that, by them still being loved to the extent that they are in spite of their heelness, does that make them not a great heel?
No, and here's why. It's about what Dylan says, evolution. When I brought back the old school 30-year double definition, back in that day, people thought wrestling was real.
Yeah.
People thought wrestling was real. They thought Roddy Piper was that fucking much of an asshole. They actually literally wanted to kill. I mean, you're talking about stabbing in the parking lot. But back in the day, what I'm saying is that nowadays, just like evolution in the 90s happened, we know that this is storylines. We know that we can watch Andrew Guy and Ben Bateman. Well, we could watch them in action movie Anatomy. And we know that Andrew Guy is probably one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet in your life. Sweetheart of a guy, really. So when he starts going derogatory, starts going heel, and this version of heel is basically, I'm going to attack the good guys by disrespecting them, by calling them out, by trash talking them, by doing heel things. Like I'm going to put my foot up on the desk. I'm going to start saying shit. I'm going to talk during the match like I did during Dan Murrell. I'm going to flip off Dan Murrell at the end. That is how it began. But we enjoy it now because we understand that this is not really Andrew Guy. If we thought Andrew Guy was really this guy, people would hate him. But they know he's just a damn good actor. So that's why he is still a successful heel in nowadays parlance, but it's all basically about how much do we know about him. We're on the inside. It's kind of inside joke. We're inside the joke at this point, where before you weren't. People like Brandon and Chandru, people seem to not understand or not know whether these are really him or not. I kind of feel that way.
Well, that's something I'm kind of curious about. Okay, so if that's the case where the lines are blurred a bit, for example, thing is, like with characters like Chandra, who is now a heel, do you think it would, like, hypothetically, if he was a creative and he did stuff like Sabrina or John Rocco, where they had a Patreon, where they did Q&As, where they're on screen a lot, with fans and stuff like that, where they actually did a lot of one-on-one reactions with people, where people actually recognized his personality outside of Schmoedown. Do you think that is a huge benefit being in Schmoedown overall, because people don't exclusively associate you with that one personality?
Yeah, for sure. I think that a lot of what makes Chandru hard to digest as a heel is that Chandru is just Chandru. Chandru is not the host on the show. He's not a host on, he's not doing a whole bunch of extra bigger things. Like Chandru is the Schmoedown competitor pretty exclusively, at least to my knowledge. I mean, he might have a podcast out there and I don't know. But overall, yeah. I mean, when we only see Chandru at 100% of Chandru that we know, at least from Scream, right, is heel Chandru from this point forward. That's hard, because then it is a little bit, as Paul, harder, or a little bit harder to buy into the joke, right? You're supposed to be in on the gag that this is storyline. With Brandon Hanna, I think people get it. People get that Hanna is, while pure heel, it almost has a hint of like, I have NC Shepherd in chat even saying it's kind of like it's all fake, right? And there's kind of an like you get the feeling that he's kind of in on it, which is what makes it kind of good and kind of bad at times. But Chandru, man, people are hot on it after that Smets match. And I'm sitting here to say, man, like, you know what? Be hot all day. He did his job.
He did absolutely do his job.
Yeah, when you're a heel, especially in Schmoedown, I think that the credit trade-off you get. Here's the deal. Here's the invisible contract as a Schmoedown heel. All right, so here's the rules. The fans will either hate you or love to hate you, depending. And in exchange, you get to do fun stuff in the match, right? You can banter, you can do promos, you can shit talk them, you can do all this stuff. You can have little jabs here. You can maybe push it a little bit further, even in the match, than maybe what you're comfortable with, and get away with it because that is like you're under the heel contract with that.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's what happens in the match, and people get furious and say he's not a heel and it's too far and it's disrespectful. And I'm like, guys, where have you been? Like that's the deal. That is the contract. Like
it's well, again, I think that the lines are blurred a little bit for sure. But how far is considered too far? As far as there was a time where Andrew Guy, where people literally thought he was that guy that was legitimately an asshole, and the lines were blurred quite a bit. Because there wasn't the action guys all that much. There was a little bit, but as around the time they were just starting and they weren't as popular as they are now, obviously. So people like myself literally thought he was such a weenie. The lines are blurred for sure. Versus someone like Chandru, what is okay? So honestly, I feel like he's changed a little bit, but he hasn't changed that much. For as long as I remember, he's been doing these subtle little jabs during matches, and that is the exact same thing that he did in this championship IG match.
Let me just interject real quick. I think the difference was he was supposed to be a face-ish. He was like, he's supposed to be a face. Everybody liked him, whatever. And Christian I think Christian kind of realized that people weren't seeing that, or because he was doing these jabs, he couldn't quite pull off the face because he would have those little jabs. He would do these little jabs. The Christian, as a smart owner or whatever, would do manager or whatever, said, okay, well, we're not doing this right, so let's just flip the switch a little bit and I'm going to let you turn that shit up. I think before Christian probably saying, you can't do that. Don't do that. You got to tone this down, tone that stuff down. We're going to be how you be a face. Now he's like, you know what? We're just going to lean into their way. You can't make him a face. We're going to let him go. Now, go ahead. Release the Chandru, so to speak, in a way. let him be exactly what he's going to be.
Well, the thing is, Christian has literally in the past being like, hey, you need to go farther. You need to go more heel.
Right.
And so, at what point does it end personally? Like, obviously when it comes to the character, like as far as I know personally, especially in recent memory, Chandra's the first character, the first heel where we're like, we don't know. There's some people literally, they're just like, no, I legitimately don't like him. Not because of his character, but because of who he is. Now, does that, because those lines are so blurred in and of itself, doesn't that by definition make him a really great heel though?
Yeah, it does. It does. It's a different kind of heel. It's the more older school heel, but it definitely works because at the end of the day, I can guarantee you if Smets and Chandru had, I can guarantee you that people want to see Chance Ellison kick Chandru's ass is spectacular.
Oh yeah.
And they're going to pay to see it. I've seen people talk about, I hope Chance shuts him up. I hope Chance does this. I hope Chance, because they want to see him get shut up. And that's a definition of a heel. It's a different kind of definition. It's a different heel than we've had for the most part, as far as Guy and Shannon go, but it's definitely a good version of a heel. Now, whether that's going to work or not, I'll take her off until she gets back, I guess.
Oh yeah.
But at the end of the day, it doesn't mean, and there's different kinds of heels as well. There's always, you got like we talked about before, there's the kind of maniacal heels, the video Drew and Toms of the world, and those kind of people. And that's a totally different kind of heel, but there's still successful heels. But the reason why they're not as successful, I think, compared to someone like a Chandru or someone like a Guy, is that it's not to that extreme. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You gotta go all in.
I think it's an interesting dynamic, and I think how much of the heel stuff it just has to go because it's against Smets, right? Which is weird because I think that in the same way, people really took off with Guy on Merle. Guy, I think Guy, if he had played it the same way that Chandra did, probably would be getting similar responses. But Guy was already kind of beloved at that point.
That's the thing. He earned it already.
Right.
No way.
Plus, it is such a underdog match in that situation, so it's kind of hard to really compare that in that way. But then we look at Chandra against Smets, and Smets, who is a heel, depending. I mean, we've always just laughed at like he delivers that threatening menace persona off on him, but again, like he's so damn lovable, it's hard not to. He kind of does come in with this aura of a babyface while still being that tough and griff, like destroyer of people. But Chandra comes in and does what he does, and it really rubbed people the wrong way. And I think part of that is that they're like, we love Smets, we want to see him come in, we want to get in it. And I think that big fall for Smets and Chandra rising while doing the taking that heel step to the next level, I think that just made it so much harder for people to take. But again, if you say that it's gone too far and you watch the Guy match and you praise that for the work that it's done there, take a look in the mirror, guys, because Chandra wasn't even nearly as bad. Guy put his feet up, took pictures with Merle during the match, and then jumped on the thing and flipped him off after he won. Yeah.
Well, I mean, at the same time, also, that Guy, that definitely did not sit well with Merle. We know that now afterwards. It did not sit well with Merle. Guy it got to make up with Merle afterwards. But that's part of the idea. But nowadays, also, the thing is, people you're supposed to know that. Like, when Guy and Ben were doing their thing, there was nobody else really doing it. I mean, Roca was, but he was he was actually more of a face at that point. He had turned to more of a tweener. But nobody else doing that kind of character work that everybody else was doing at that point, as far as heeldom goes. So nowadays, but you should kind of know that now. It's interesting that they're still kind of having that question mark. The fact that it's so murky, is fascinating to me. That makes me wonder what is going on. I mean, I got to tell you another thing about the heel, just another interjection thing, is one of the things you got to do is that if you listen to someone like a Chris Jericho, that's one reason it's great to have him come on Schmoedown, you never want to bury your opponents. That's what a good heel has to learn, because if you bury your opponents in smack talk, then if you beat them, then you're supposed to have beaten them. You know what I mean? So it ends up cheapening the match, because you got to remember what some people forget to do, and I think a lot of people forget to do, is what is your main goal? Your main goal is not really to smack talk and disrespect somebody. It's to build up the match. You're all about promoting the next match, and you want to make it so you don't want to say like this guy sucks. You want to say, well, this guy has done a lot of things, but I'm better than him. That kind of thing, in a way. It's a different kind. It's a fine line, but you want to make sure you want to see when Merle faces Guy, you got to get over the fact that you want to see why do you want to see this match. You don't want to see anybody Merle disrespecting Guy. You don't want to see Guy completely disrespecting Merle. You can disrespect a little bit, but never his gameplay.
Right.
Yeah, it just becomes a very gray line, and obviously as well, we do have a bunch of people within Schmoedown that are actors, that are performers by extension in general, but some people aren't. Like someone like Chandra, his isn't. As far as I know, I think he's a student. He's like a bachelor's or his master's or something, and I did. And and so this is something he's just doing for fun, and so he's not really he's not an actor. So maybe what he's doing, he just doesn't realize how it does come across or whatever it may be. It's definitely a blurred line for sure. But also, I mean, there was a real people that aren't familiar with matches, or is like a real he also, I mean, like his heelness attitude at the end of the day, he was smiling the entire time. He was like doing this. He was doing a high five, or he was just like his whole physical demeanor technically by definition was in heel behavior. However, his attitude behind it, as if it was like, oh yeah, he's like, oh, you're obviously, it's just, it definitely got inside his head. And Seven Shepherd did say earlier, I kind of want to mention it, said Hannah is a pure act as a heel. It's all fake. Chandra is much more of an extreme version of what Roca thinks Bibbs is. He's a nice guy, but he throws dirty jabs at people while he thinks he's being nice. Bibbs is 100% a face. Just want to point that out there. Yeah. He's got facts, but he's 100% a face.
Interesting. Let me just target what he said. I don't know if Chandra is being. I don't know if Chandra does think he's being nice. I don't know that, to be honest with you. I wonder that sometimes.
The act of it itself, of him like smiling on stage and be like.
My hot take on this is that
Chandra was not heelish. Like technically, that's not a heel behavior thing, but the way he's kind of going about it as if sarcastic, that is a little heelish.
I think on presentation you definitely get what I think Snyder coined it best. I talked with Snyder about this once, and Snyder said that he's like, Chandru's a wolf in sheep's clothing. And I think that's a pretty solid representation of like the character of heel that Chandru is. But yeah, I think in the Smiths match, he could have definitely taken it further. I think people who are saying that it was not like disrespectful, the hot take there is Chandru didn't take it far enough. Chandru could have pushed it. Are you kidding? You got a question on your accent. He could have played a racist card if he wanted to.
Oh my gosh, he totally could have.
He could have. He could have story one on it, and that like Kevin had a hard time putting a challenge up there in any way. So listen, here's the rule with the heel stuff, because heel is an umbrella term. I think the best way to look at it, just in the story narrative aspects of it, it's the antagonist. It's the antagonist in whatever form that is. It's the person that you're going that's creating the conflict, creating chaos. I saw somebody point out pretty much exactly that statement, and I totally agree. If they're creating conflict, and Chandru's doing that, check the Facebook, last I checked, conflict away, then he's doing his job. So
yeah.
Very true. I guess the reality of the situation is, and I don't, again, this isn't bringing up something I don't know much about, can't say anything back and forth, but like, is it show? And how are they doing things backstage? Mm-hmm. Like behind the scenes, Andrew Guy would come up, shake your hand, and like eventually talk and everything else. Is Chandru is doing that as well and making himself known as being somebody who's respectful and this is all part of the show? Then that's one thing. If he's not, and this is what he's doing, that's where the disrespectful too far thing. Because if he's doing this during the match and he's acting the same way behind the scenes too, that's where the problem might come in. Because I know we had this problem initially at one point with Paul Oyama when he first came to the league, and Chance Ellis when he first came to the league. They had this cocky heel behavior thing going on. They thought they were being part of the show. They were the newcomers onto the turf, and people had some problems with them backstage as well. And it was mended. Everything was mended out recently. Paul Oyama, I know we had that scene where Jen made up with Paul Oyama earlier in the year, and it was good. It worked well, and I think that was their way of saying, "Yep, there's some behind the scenes tension, but we've mapped it out, and now we're okay." And that's when Paul went face after that. Now that's what I mean about Chandru. Like behind the scenes, I don't know much about behind the scenes, but as long as he's being respectful behind the scenes to it, then he can go as far as he wants as far as the show goes in terms of during the matches and during promos. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of a murky situation as well. He's also one of the Chandru is in a very unique situation. As far as I can remember, he's also been challenged multiple times on his accent, him pronouncing things. Like there's like one, it was like a 3 or 5 pointer question. It was like, what is the name of Dumbledore's sister?
Oh, Ariana versus Ariana.
Yeah, and it was like things, and I can't remember who he was going against, but that was a question, and the way he pronounced it was initially incorrect. But he's like,
that was also Smith's, actually.
Yeah, that's actually Smith.
Yeah. Oh, was it? Yeah. So I mean, it's just kind of like, it's definitely just kind of a weird situation. Like no one else has really been been challenged on that way. So it's just kind of a weird situation. But obviously, we all know that Smets is a wonderful person. He's one of the greatest guys in Schmoedown. We love him. And obviously, we can talk about how Chandru could have played the race card. And obviously, thankfully, he didn't, obviously, because if he went down that route, that would have been really, really bad. Yeah. We also know that that's just not the route we want to take in Schmoedown. But also we know that Dylan clearly didn't mean it like that.
Clarified
it could have been. Hypothetically, in another universe, it did go really, really badly. It's just like it feels like there's a lot of competitors that are faces, but maybe they have some heel tendencies, but also there's a lot of heels that have face tendencies. And there's people in between that are like Ben Bateman. I will never, ever consider him a face, even though he is technically a face. I will forever consider him a tweener, or a tweener and a heel, honestly.
He's a tweener right now because he does do respectful things. He's very respectful at every opponent he faces now. Like he talks a good game, talks else. He will throw in a little jab, like it's more of a psychological jab. It's not as disrespectful.
That's exactly what Chandru does. Chandru's
a little bit more. He turns a little bit more.
Maybe the thing is he does the psychological jabs. He does.
It's a little more. It's true, but it's a little bit more of an.
Ben, when Ben goes up against Bibbs, he will throw a jab a day or two before Adam, like on Twitter or something like that. They know that. Bibbs knows that he's gonna be some kind of message or something like that will be told to him, possibly during the match, in order to break him a little bit, in order to kind of crack him a little bit, because he knows that's all it takes. It's just from Ben in particular. No one else can do it but Ben. It's just kind of weird that way. And Ben takes advantage of that.
This is an interesting question. All I was talking about, ask James Axlinger, by the way. All I was talking about, ask how can we have this wrestling atmosphere and also strive for real people and real feelings at the same time? How do we know what's real and what isn't? The Schmoedown is actually in the chat. I don't know who that is. The Schmoedown is here. You never gonna know what's real. But either way, to answer that,
the Schmoedown is real. It's the Schmoedown.
That's true.
It's Schmoedown.
Hashtag.
To answer James' question, I will say that I think the idea, it's all about knowledge. It's all about you. It's like, I don't want to go after dark. It's like having a safe word. You have to know what your partner's into. You have to know what's going on. And you have to know how far you're willing to go. You might not, like, it's almost like you should draw it out. Don't do this. Don't touch this. Don't talk about this. Don't talk about this. But here, hit me this way, and that's fine. But as long as you're
talking about the safe words,
but it's the same type of thing. It's the same type of thing, though. Seriously.
Yeah.
As long as you know about it and you're okay. That's what happened with Andrew Guy at first. Like Dan Murrell wasn't expecting it. That's why he was a little upset, I think, at that point. Nowadays, I think he'd be understanding of it, and he gets what the show is. So if you know what the show is, you know what you're going to get. It'll be okay. The problem is we have a lot of these rookies or first timers or whatever coming in. They don't play ever, and they're coming in. And all of a sudden, they see this going on. They're like, what? And it takes them a while to figure out. Oh, this is a game. This is a play. This is a theater, almost like.
Right.
So that's how you have to do it. It has to be clear to the point. These guys have characters. They're going to trash talk. Some of them are going to be harder than others, and you just got to kind of roll with it and everything else. And if you can't take that, then you probably shouldn't play. To be honest with you, I mean, not that much, but
let's say if that's the case, there are enough people in Schmoedown where that's an issue. In that case, we would have to get rid of a quarter of the competitors that are not only. When I say that they can't take it, it's not so much they can't take it; it's just they're sensitive to it.
Right.
It's just like you can go far, just don't go that far. Especially on maybe you're like, once we're on screen, we're totally fine, but don't go at me, don't attack me on social media, don't do this, don't do that. So where it's iffy. I know several competitors that have been like, yeah, I just was not okay with it from the get-go. And we had a conversation before, but after being in it, I was like, nope. And that's just like you have to be okay with it in order to compete on this level. Now where we have such so many different types of heels. Like there are some competitors that are like, when it comes to working with Video Drew, it's just like, they're like, oh man, I don't know if I can do that, just because, she's whipping out her dolls. It's distracting. She does a character, and sometimes you don't know how to work with that.
Right.
And so you got to be okay with a lot of different personalities, and you got to be okay with different types of heels and that kind of heel behavior as well, in and out of the match.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think at this point, this level, you got to understand it. You know what's going on. It's not like this is back in the day when Andrew Guy and Ben Bateman were starting. When they started their antics, the league wasn't all like that. It was basically John Roca and then them, a few others here and there. Nowadays, you got to know what you're getting into when you're walking in. And you got to lead it. So it's more on them now, I think, at this point than it was before. You got to understand what you're doing, and it's fine if you want to tell them. You absolutely should be able to say, look, you know what? Don't talk about my mama or something like that. Like you say, you can hit me anyway, just don't talk about my mama. I don't like that or whatever. And that's okay. And people like Andrew Guy and the heels or whoever have to respect that and move on with it. And that's the only way you're going to have a give or take. I mean, you're adding another conversation we can have, and I don't want to talk about it tonight because we already started. It would be around 2 hours, is how the fans are involved in that as well. But that's a totally different avenue we should go down at someday, maybe next week or something. But as far as the competitors themselves, know what you're getting into, be upfront about what you can take and what you can't. And I think most people would be okay with understanding and taking it and just moving a different way.
Yeah.
Real quickly before we wrap up tonight's episode, we got to get down to the nitty gritty. Dylan, what's your safe word?
Hand banana.
That's a solid one. All right, Paul, what's your safe word?
Purple. That's it, just purple.
Yeah, less syllables tends to be better. Once you get through the hand part, the boom, it gets really bad on those last syllables. I advise many less syllables. Alex, here's the word.
Stephen King.
Stephen King. All right. So what happens if you were actually having sex with Stephen King, though? Would that change? You have to change your safe word at that point, wouldn't you?
Man, you just took it too far, Paul. I just don't appreciate that. No, that's too far. Too far. You're pulling up the heel, and I do not appreciate that kind of heel behavior. I'm not here for. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for. I will kick you out, heel sir. I will kick you out, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight in this episode of Call Live, hosted by Kelsey. Unfortunately, she could not be here tonight due to internet issues. Also, you suck, CenturyLink, for having like horrible internet issues. Like, what the heck's going on over there? Yeah, Justin Juice, just saying, you did fantastic on Schmoedown last week.
Loved them.
I would, yeah, pretty fantastic.
Rock that guitar.
Oh, guitar is iconic. So good. Okay, guys, just wrapping it up. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. Thank you so much if you gave us a super chat or a Streamlab. We really, really appreciate it. It helps us keep the lights on here at C2A. I can't tell you how much it means to us. But last but not least, Dylan, where can we reach you, find out what you're doing, and also where are we going to learn more about your safe words?
Ooh, you can always catch me on our Twitch Hangouts. We're doing Twitch Hangouts randomly, to be perfectly honest.
Try to get a schedule at some point, but
are we?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I will always do my best to be on those ones. I've consistently been 2 for 2 on those ones. You can catch me on Twitter over at there it is at CAMACH Octo. You can I don't tweet much, but I do appreciate followers. It makes me feel important and spectacular. Thank you. And if you want to, for whatever reason, follow me on other channels talking about other movies, you can go catch me at Let's Make an Effing Podcast. I do movie reviews there. We're on season 3. I've gone through a whole bunch of stuff. We're about to cover Waterworld, so stay tuned for that stuff. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be real fun. It's Mad Max with water instead. But those are all
urine.
Lots of urine. And then I've got other plans. We're scheming. There's a reason I'm not on screen as often. Just I'm not wasting my time. Paul, Mr. PLD himself. Everybody knows where they can catch you at, but you go ahead and remind them.
At Paul_Denizio. I also play our ad for tomorrow's show because you can find me on Chilled Action with my favorite co-host, Danielle Ramirez. Here is this ad for tomorrow. So yeah, we've got Andres Gallego coming on. That's going to be great. Our 49th episode. That should be a lot of fun. He's a lot of fun to talk to. And also beyond that, you can find me on Class Action on the Action Industries YouTube channel. This Sunday night, we're actually going to have at 11 or 9 p.m. Pacific. We're going live, me and Richard Eric Jarvie, with special guest Brandon Hanna. And we're going to be taking on Star Trek 2009 versus Star Wars The Force Awakens. So that'd be an interesting debate there. And, of course, I am also at PLD Projects. I am developing that channel slowly. It's been very slow, but it is there. There is some content on it. There will be more as soon as I can make things work. So that's it for me.
And clearly the inferior heel here. I'm Alex Mack, part of the Call to Action crew, and you can find me part of Mornings with the Outlaw on Tuesdays and Thursdays. John Roca himself, where we dive into movie news on the week at 10:30 Central. It's a fun time. I just get there's a lot of cat cameos from both my cats and a whole bunch of stuff. And also hear a bunch of my random hot takes and about what movies I clearly haven't seen. So, am I a movie fan? I don't know. Also, on Tuesday evenings at 10 o'clock on Central, I actually host a show called Cinema Bias. We really kind of dive into Video Drew, and I actually dive into our personal biases in terms of movies, whether we start against a certain, director or style of film or genre. I'm not a big fan of Christopher Nolan movies. I don't.
Boo.
Yeah.
That's.
I just
now you're the biggest heel.
No, it's just cool. Oh wow, he talks about 5 themes in his movie. Like, it's just all the same themes. It's like nauseating. But my favorite Christopher Nolan movie is actually The Prestige. I love it. I do love that movie. But oh my gosh, wow, talking about what is I'm sorry, dude. Sorry. Oh my gosh, how many times can I talk about bending time, or what is time? What is reality? What
At
is
least one more.
how many times can he talk about that? Seriously, it's all the same. Each of his movies talk about that. Inception, Memento, The Dark Knight, Interstellar.
Okay.
They're all like the same things. It's nauseating. Anyway, sorry. Anyway,
Okay, no more rants. No more rants.
But last but not least, real quickly, Schmoedown is this Wednesday. It's going to be themed on The Den. My co-host is going to be Rachel Silvestrini from The Den. Fantastic. But also Ben Goddard is going to be one of my competitors, and the other one you're going to have to see. And our ghost judge. Oh, guys, our ghost judge is fantastic. But hence, she's not playing. She's a retired competitor. So,
one more thing I did want to plug. I forgot. Generals debate on the Action Industries YouTube channel this week on Thursday night. I got 4 generals debating what's the greatest comic book movie of all time. I get to host that and help with Ben and Drew on that as well. It's a fun game. You see the generals do it. It's a lot of fun. They go every other week. They're getting intense. They've gotten really intense. They've been studying for trivia, because there's a little bit of trivia involved. They've been like studying old Ben and Drew AMA episodes, trying to just see what they can do to like see what makes them tick. And like, it's totally like off the wall. I love it. I love it so much. So come do that as well.
As a winner of an episode of a general's debate, you have yet to come on my level.
I can't afford the general level.
Guys, but thank you so much for hanging out with us. We really, really do appreciate it. And we'll see you here later this week. Next week, we got a bunch of breakdowns and stuff coming to you, so definitely stay tuned. But guys, keep watching movies. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye, guys.